Okay, so this is a spontaneous video, but I think it's important, partly for spreading information and partly to discuss the general issue. This is from Yahoo News, and the headline is as follows. London rickshaw driver charged £206 for 1 mile ride because it was uphill. And the report goes on to, I won't read the whole thing out, but I'll put a link. Juris Jabovic, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's spelled Juris, Juris, surname Dzadovic, 22, has been criticised after footage emerged charging the fare for a 10-minute journey along Oxford Street. A rickshaw driver who charged tourists in London £206 for a 1 mile journey says the fare was justified because he had to pedal uphill. He claimed the fare should have been twice as much. Um, I charged £206 because there was 4 people and I was going uphill. I didn't even charge him the full amount. He said he arrived in Britain a week ago on a tourist visa and claimed to be a rising star in Russian opera. He said, I don't come cheap. I work my legs hard. I look good and I play good music. You have to pay a lot if you want that kind of luxury. Um, Everyone is saying that black cabs are cheaper. Of course they are. It's just one guy and the engine does everything. The fact is everything is expensive in London. I'm not the bad guy. I just do my job like everyone else. Anyway, he was spotted by some officers. One officer accused him of exploiting the tourists, who appeared to be 2 women and 2 children. In the clip, the officer says they're foreign tourists, you're ripping them off. You're blatantly ripping them off as you know 1 minute in, in here is not worth £10. Jabovic says he works for Glow Taxis, but the firm insists he hired a rickshaw from them on a semi-independent basis, and that doesn't endorse 10-minute fares. Okay, now this is a problem that can be seen in London, and I think you could probably see something similar in every major city in the world, or every touristic city. A few years ago, there was a report about ice cream vendors in Venice, Italy, that were, or an ice cream vendor, I should say, that was selling ice creams on €50. And I know from experience I've been ripped off when I was in certain parts of China. So unfortunately, it's a worldwide problem that if you're a tourist, people will think that you're naive and you don't know the local standard pricing. Now, I want to address these guys' claims because I think he's full of shit. He's saying that his pricing is justified because it's uphill and he's taking 4 people. Okay, I accept that there's some physical exertion involved in that, and I accept that it's different from a taxi because a taxi has an engine. Fair enough. So charge a bit more. But not this amount, not £10 a minute. That is just blatantly extortionate. Um, I think that that is, in any reckoning, that is utterly ridiculous. I think maybe £30 tops would be more reasonable. The guy is basically ripping them off. Um, Even if you say £30, £50 at the very, very max. But the guy's ripping these people off, and it is cowardly because they don't know. Um, if this was a local Londoner, there isn't a chance in hell they would do that. So the guy, he said, "Oh, I just have to work like anyone else." Frankly, that can be used as an excuse for anything. Um, I hope he's fined for this, for fraud, and I hope he loses his license, and I hope he then tastes. He's saying he's not the bad guy. Basically, he's a little shit. And I'm sorry, but this does really get on my nerves. I hope now this report is spread around and I hope he loses business. I'm not saying that to be malicious, but I think that the people need to be protected from this sort of fraud. Um, I think it's despicable. And I think Boris Johnson needs to crack down on this sort of thing. I've heard it happening in London before. Um, and the problem is it just, it's taking money from people who may not know the situation. I appreciate it's harder than the taxi. I appreciate, there is some there's a physical feat involved. But, in the end of the day, if you choose to be a rickshaw driver, you know that. It's not an excuse to rip people off. If I was a rickshaw driver, I'd expect to be physically strong. I'd expect, yeah, I'd charge a bit more than a taxi, but not that much. It's blatantly ripping people off. So what I would say is, I think it's good that this guy's been caught out. I just hope that he faces some consequences for it because it's clearly unacceptable that he's doing this. And I think there needs to be City Hall needs to do something. They need to crack down hard on this sort of behaviour. I don't live in London, but looking at the comments, apparently there's rickshaw drivers have a reputation for doing this. Um, so I think there needs to be. I think there could be some solutions to this. I think an upfront price, clearly advertised on the rickshaw, so that tourists know what they're going to pay. That way they can judge themselves, and they could do research beforehand, knowing if that is a standard price. And then if it's expensive, at least it's advertised. At least people know what they're getting. But if there's no upfront price and then suddenly people are dropped in the deep end, oh, you have to pay £206. That's that's extortionate. That's more than an evening meal. And we're talking here about a 10-minute journey, so it's ridiculous. Um, so if you live in the London area, avoid this guy. He's a white guy. He wears a pink T-shirt. He looks slightly like Justin Timberlake. Very, very slightly. I'm not saying this to be malicious. I'm saying it because I want people to be aware, to be protected. Um, and I'll put a link to this story. It's disgraceful. I really do think he should face some sort of charges for fraud. Plus the fact he's working on a tourist visa, which is illegal. He's getting paid work for, and he's on a tourist visa, so he should face some charges for that alone.